Good morning, everyone. Privileged to be here. I think the word visionary strikes well. I am really grateful that we are discussing this topic today. It's an opportune time to start thinking and speaking and acting on connected TVs. Uh, Wanted to share some perspective. I will go less into numbers. Thanks for covering the landscape. I will speak more about why connected TVs are important and where there's the opportunity which lies ahead. So without further ado, let me get into it. And I also want to bring the perspective, having worked on the linear TV side and also working on digital marketing, how the two are sort of intertwined. In fact, before we started, Shubha and I were speaking in the speakers lounge, and an interesting comment was that what's the old world order and is this the new world order? And I think that's an illustration that both of us were unclear on what's old and what's new, because there's just a spectrum of things which have evolved over time, right? So as we look at this is one more opportunity, one more space where audiences are engaging, and hence relevant for all of us to see how we can tap into the audience, make something which is interesting and valuable for them, and gain value from the audience as well. So first up, India's, of course, as everybody knows, lot of digital adoption, driven by smartphones, driven by internet. I think Jio has also accelerated the process a lot more. It is mobile heavy, but with 5G coming in, mobile is translating to other devices because bandwidth is no longer a problem. But if I step back many, many years and discuss how did we get here, we started content consumption and entertainment consumption on radio. Then we went to TV with antenna. Then we went to TV with cable. Maybe many people in the room at the back have not seen those. Then we went to TV along with set-top boxes. Then we actually got internet and the smaller screen like Dr. Batra was referring to, right? That's kind of where we've gotten to. But TV has always been central to how an Indian household thinks and consumes media. But it has fallen behind because it did not have the technological advantages, which I think the smart TVs are now able to address. And it's making a comeback. If I share a personal anecdote, I am in the process of renovating my apartment. The first thing which got fixed was the position of the TV in the living room. That's how central it is to how the family thinks about living spaces and common spaces. OTT has made a lot of individualism come in how we are consuming content, but you will also see parents telling their children, get off the phone, you're always off the phone. So these common spaces, common occasions, having dinner and watching TV, they are bound to make a comeback, and we need to see how TV has now evolved or can evolve to make that as interesting and as valuable as OTT does. If I look at connected TV and just one page on definition so that we understand the broad spectrum which it has. It has smart TVs which already have inbuilt operating system. It has all your streaming devices like Fire Stick which can be added to non-smart TVs. It has set-top boxes which also have ability to stream apps, so those digitally enabled one. Gaming consoles, they also now have a provision to be able to stream using the application. So they also make your TV smart. And then of course the Indian jugaad of all sorts of other boxes which allow any traditional TV to be able to cast and to be able to stream. With this spectrum, what's happened is there's a variety of choices. You don't need to always buy a smart TV itself. Like I, for one, don't have a smart TV right now, but when I go to the market, the only thing I'm pitched by the retailers is smart TVs. It is a struggle to find a TV which is not smart these days. And the price point also goes from as low as 7,000-10,000 all the way to whichever size and scale and price point you want to go to, right? So across all of this spectrum, I think the advantages which OTT and digital streaming bring, it's on the anvil for TVs to also have those advantages at a massive scale. Right now, there's a lot of untapped potential in how much smart TVs could penetrate. Some basic numbers around it. As of right now, our view is that there's about 30 million smart TVs, which is about 120 million consumers at an average size of 4 per household. We expect this to get to anywhere close to 75 million in a conservative estimate by 2030, which means 300 million people who are consuming content at least part of their consumption is happening using smart TV. That's a tremendous size of audience who you can tap into. And by design, a lot of this audience is a bit more premium compared to the average audience set as well. So it's also a higher value audience which is there, which is consuming together. What's driving this? Of course, high-speed broadband, but also consumers' watch behaviors, which to some extent got curtailed by OTT, but they are coming back, and I'll speak about them later. Just for a reference point, because connected TVs is quote-unquote relatively newer for India as it is for Western markets, in the US, the penetration of connected TVs is much higher. If you look at the regular TV base and connected TVs are 3x. If you look at the mobile screens, in India about 10% of mobile screens are in the form of connected TVs. In the US it's like 70%. So the penetration is much higher, and with our growth in GDP and growth in disposable income, reducing price points, we are on the path to get there as well. I do want to approach it and shape the opportunity from all perspectives. I do want to speak about consumers and what it means for them. I do definitely want to speak about advertisers and what it means for them and where there is opportunity. But I also want to speak about OEMs and app developers because they are the enablers to make this change happen. As of right now, if I reflect back, most of the smart TV interfaces or applications are mobile first, adapted for smart TV. I think we are at a time where we need to start thinking smart TV first as well in terms of the development of the interfaces, in terms of the user experience. So let's dive in and look at the consumer first. So this is a set of research we had done maybe a couple of years back, which we wanted to understand how do people consume content. And we think of them as demand spaces and not just in terms of research and profiles. And demand spaces is basically who are you watching with, what time, and for what purpose are you watching this, right? There's of course multiple demand spaces, but I would draw attention to 3 demand spaces in specific. First is the one at the top, which is highest intensity of consumption through the day, which is all I can dream about is video. These are kind of your super users, lot of content being consumed. They are the ones who switch device to device, and all devices are part of their consumption set. They are not limited or restricted to one type. So they will stream when they are on the way to office or on the way to any other place. They will consume content alone when they are watching the kind of content they don't want to watch in a joint setting, but they will also watch TV when they are sitting with family or with friends. So that's one demand space which is quite relevant and fairly large. The second one is the chill pill. And this one is interesting because this is more like indulgence or relaxation as a social event. Doing it with friends, doing it with family. And the fact that you want to do it together lends itself beautifully for TV and a larger screen rather than OTT and a small screen, or mobile and a small screen. And hence, this is one which is really the one which can be a driving force for this adoption as well, because there are events, and we did a recent report on Gen Z as well. A lot of Gen Z want to have shared experiences with their friends, with their close group of friends. Their groups of friends are 5 people, 6 people, so it's small, it's not like a gathering. But at the same time, they want to experience things together. One of the things which was called out was, how do we watch sport? How do we watch a new release on OTT? How do we watch a new release in terms of a movie? And they want to do it together. They don't always want to go to a cinema hall and do it if it's a movie. But for everything else, the only option is sitting in a living room. So how do we tap into that space, design for that space, is one of the imperatives when I think about the OEMs, which are the TV manufacturers, but also for the app developers who are putting out the content there, right? And the third one which I want to call out is Full House, which you see towards the right and at the bottom. That's the one which is the prime time space, family, dinner. The reason IPL is so successful is because it is no longer sport, it is general entertainment in prime time. It's a family event to watch an IPL match. And that's something which again, by combination of sport as well as the timing, lends really well to a living room and a big screen. It's not fun watching it on a small screen when you're trying to watch it together, especially if you're passionate about a team of yours. So that's again a demand space which lends really well to a big screen, and connected TVs can bridge the gap which OTT brings in terms of the value added content which is available. And let me talk about that a bit later. The other interesting thing is connected TVs, as we see their growth, it's not only from metros and tier 1s. It is actually from tier 2s and tier 3s as well. As the penetration of e-commerce, as the penetration of large format retail goes up, from my personal experience also I can say, anything you search, you first get a smart TV and then you have to dig deeper and find a non-smart TV. So by default, the exposure of the audience or of the consumer who's in the market to buy a television or upgrade a television is to smart TV first. And that's the other element which is really going to drive the adoption, along with, of course, premium internet coming through and lower cost of TV coming through. I think the regional trend and the vernacular, as Dr. Batra spoke about, that's the other important element. Because right now, getting regional content is only limited to OTT, or if you subscribe to specific channels depending on what is available where you live. That changes entirely if you look at the smart TV ecosystem as well. Because in a family viewing space, you can have really good content which is regional, and you want to, that's another way in which families bond by speaking in their common language, in their mother tongue, and they are able to watch content. And this is specifically true for southern markets, for some of the eastern markets, where the general programming is just 1 or 2 channels which are regional, but a large programming is Hindi or English. And this again bridges that void in being able to bond over content. What are the watch shifts which make it interesting? Consumer watch shifts which make it interesting for advertisers and why ad spend can come through. First, co-viewing is becoming more prominent. Like I spoke about it. Watching on phone, there's a certain type of content, there's a certain type of behavior. Family occasions and doing more things with family is something which is coming back. Gen Zs speak a lot about how do we spend time with family and how do we spend time with friends. They are not like the generation before them which is more on their own and nuclear. They believe in tradition, they believe in bonding with their grandparents. They want to spend time together. How do we do that? This is clearly one which comes through in terms of co-watching as an occasion. And then you have interactivity along with it, play-alongs and all, which can be possible in smart TVs. That makes it even more fun. Second, preference for vernacular content, and this again with family like I spoke about it. Third, how do you make that engagement with live sports happen? If you are watching a cricket match or if you are watching a football match, right now the difference is on your iPhone, you can have different camera angles, you can have different commentary, you can have multiple languages to choose from, so on and so forth. Traditional linear TV did not afford that opportunity. You had to subscribe to an English or Hindi channel and that's it. You just had a difference in commentary. But with smart TVs, on the large screen, which is by default more fun for sports, you also get all of these value added features. So that shift is like just waiting to happen. As people cater to that need, give that quality of experience, people are very quick to migrate and they are looking for that opportunity to do that. And lastly, this is an interesting one. While it's an ANDed problem of saying AVOD and SVOD will both exist, in our research, majority of the Indians feel that it's okay to pay for ads if you're getting free content. One of the things is, we've always paid for cable television. When we do research in tier 3, tier 4 rural towns, why is DD free dish going and increasing? Because that's a free cable media. People don't have to pay for pay TV channels. AVOD actually bridges that gap. And at the same time, it gives you the advantage of additional features. At the same time, it also bridges the advantage and gives you on-demand viewing. So you don't have to have appointment viewing and adapt your schedule according to your television schedule. You can actually watch what you want when you want. So people are more than willing to watch ads as long as they don't need to pay it, and the investment is only limited to the TV. And that's a great deal. So as a combination of all of these, both the premium as well as some of the lower affluence customers are very likely to move towards smart TVs as long as the enablers come into place. And with that, the ad dollars also will naturally need to move there. The interesting part will be how will the advertisers think about it? We see again two parts. One, the advertisers think about access to high value and premium customers which are isolated and dedicated. Right now, if you think about it, and when we do a lot of the marketing work, CTV automatically means premium. A lot of fintechs and financial services companies do advertise because that channel on an average is more premium than the others. They have more propensity to buy multiple products. They have greater demand. As this expands, the second part also becomes important. How do you get precision targeting? How do you get attributability? How do you get measurability along with it? Smart TV has, or the connected TVs have what it takes to do that. But I think there is some distance to cover to be able to enable it and make it mainstream. Education on the side of advertisers and capability there, but also from an OEM and app developer perspective to think, again I would say, think connected TV first, not mobile adapted to connected TV. Because mobile has many other features which lend itself to data and targeting, which connected TVs do not have but need to get provided. So that's the development which is required, and advertisers, in my view, would be more than happy to spend money there. If I think now from an advertiser perspective, what would drive growth? Beyond just that more audiences come there, right? I think as a broader theme, linear is quote unquote a less measurable channel of reaching a lot of people. OTT is a much sharper channel of reaching people. You can target much better. But it misses the family viewing. It is individual one-to-one connection. Connected TV actually gets you the best of both worlds. You get better control over ROAS because you can target, you can measure. But at the same time, you can target multiple demand spaces and multiple audience spaces. So as we think about it, premium reach, of course, is important. Family first advertising also can be done in a more targeted manner. You have really sharp targeting, and importantly, you have reach capping as well, which you can do. So you're not spending money where you don't need to spend, which on linear, unfortunately, you don't have control over. You can make a lot more interactive formats where you can have QR codes and you can actually get people to take action, which on earlier you could not do on TV, right? And that's something which always felt that, okay, TV is a passive media. When I interact on internet, I have an active media. This bridges the gap. And you're reaching out to people who prefer to watch on a big screen. And lastly, the end-to-end view of measurability. If I combine all of these five, then ideally this should be like a supremely powerful space to be able to advertise on, right? It's not happening entirely at this point because many of these elements are not fully developed. Whether I talk about interactive formats, they are nascent. If I talk about measurability, between measurability, privacy, etc., that ecosystem and the data architecture needs to be set up. If I think about targeting and reach cap, I think many of the apps are doing it, but they are doing it across connected TV, across OTT. How do you do it dedicatedly for this? How do you create that data? I think the first two are more on the consumer and they will take off as the connected TV takes off. The last bit. Thought starters, I would not even say a point of view, but thought starters on what it might take. And when I say ecosystem players, I think of OEMs who are making these devices, whether it's the TV itself, whether it's the streaming device, whatever platform you want to call it, including the OS. And then the second one is the content creators as well as the app developers, because they often go hand in hand in terms of both the experience as well as where the content is coming from. There are imperatives of both sets in being able to enable this revolution, right? First up, if I think you need to focus on an India first UX. Multiple languages, make it convenient, make voice search possible because a lot of people are not very savvy. They are used to now touch screens and remotes are a thing of the past. If I look at my daughter, she finds it more difficult to operate the TV than she finds to operate the smartphone. She can do anything on the smartphone and she's 3. But on the TV, she needs me to come and switch channels for her. So that's the distinction. We don't have a touch screen equivalent yet because we've not imagined TV for it to be smart. We've only imagined phone to be smart and TV is an adaptation. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you make the UX which can really enable the change, right? Second, of course, the fit for screen and the fit of content. How do we get to fast channels? How do we leverage AVOD a bit more? How do we make OTT kind of originals but which are also fit for family viewing? A lot of OTT right now you would not watch with family and that is popular. But how do you make that kind of content as well, which will again take thinking of a TV first approach and not an individual device approach? How do you create those family viewing age balance profiles? Like Netflix has those different profiles. Can you by default create curated content which goes by age so that you are also recommended in the same way? Many of those elements can still get developed. How do you swap profiles? And lastly, how do you enable interactive commerce on that? I know few steps are being taken. There's a lot of tech which is coming in terms of how do you enable QRs, how do you enable feedback which is going through. There's a lot of AI which is coming through as well. Glance TV, for example, at a recent launch, you would have probably heard Naveen do presentations on that. They are actually creating interface agnostic AI enabled commerce engines. Now that's something which lends itself really well as content on TV as well, even when your TV is switched off or in kind of sleep mode, where it is just like a wall hanging where interactive pictures and images keep coming through. So people need to start thinking big screen and start thinking of what we can innovate. TV has been static for far too long. That innovation is what will drive, I think, the next wave. And lastly, we need a lot of the enablers for advertisers to also be able to capitalize on this. Whether you think about the tech stack, so that as robust a tech stack as you have for mobile, can you also have that for TV? How do you enable fast channels to become popular? Can fast channels bubble up on the OS? Right now you have to go inside the app and you have those. How do you make 24/7 fast channel? There's lots of inventory as well. How do you target the value segment? Keep reducing the cost of a good quality smart TV so that more and more adoption happens and you go not just for tier 2 and 3 but tier 4 and rural as well. And then lastly, how do you make it privacy compliant? Because a lot of data exchange, right now linear TV is one way. With this, it becomes two way. That's a fundamental change in how you will engage. And imagine if you put a camera on your smart TV, all those questions around privacy come in, but it just increases the interaction a lot more. How do you balance those? I think some of these enablers, if the OEMs and app and content creators work as an ecosystem with advertisers and create a value prop for consumers, I think we are at a very interesting point, and I think the CTV moment is here. Are we all ready to lean in and make it happen? That's what I want to leave you with. Thank you.